It's Tuesday, February 17th, 2026. Some high highs and low lows, a metaphor alert in the capital, and going nuclear next on the AM Update. It's official now, according to analysis from a company called Reventure Consulting, analysis of consumer price index data relative to housing prices. Housing prices that cost to just live in this country is at its highest level in recorded U.S. history. Recorded U.S. history sits right now at an average of about almost $300,000. This is, of course, adjusted for inflation. That is the high we're talking about. How about this low? The U.S. federal workforce has fallen to its lowest level in at least a decade, according to government data published recently. Cuts, of course, hit every major public agency in the federal government. By some measures, the level of federal workforce is at its lowest since the 60s, the 1960s. It was pretty much always throughout my life, give or take a few 100,000, around 3 million public employees. Now that number is down around 2.6 million. Some recent random statistics to lead off this morning that I saw and caught my eye yesterday. Also, this caught my eye as well. Metaphor alert in the capital.
Right now at 6, urgent warnings to stay out of the Potomac tonight. The very latest from officials on that catastrophic sewage spill. That's
WDCA in Washington, D.C. There was a massive sewage spill in Maryland that seeped into the Potomac River. Unbelievable. Now, apologies to that anchor. Even before this sewage spill, why would you ever go into the Potomac River or into D.C. in general? I mean, I've been there before, and I'm wondering the same thing myself. This has gotten so much attention, even President Trump posted this on Truth Social yesterday. Quote, "There is a massive ecological disaster unfolding in the Potomac River as a result of the gross mismanagement of local Democrat leaders, particularly Governor Wes Moore of Maryland. A sewer line breach in Maryland has caused millions of gallons of raw sewage to be dumped directly into the Potomac River, a result of incompetent local and state management of essential waste management systems." So how about that? Now, on the one hand, the federal workforce at its lowest level since the 60s. On the other hand, the swamp is just as swampy, literally and metaphorically, as it ever has been. One of those longtime swamp creatures would be Hillary Clinton. We talked about her yesterday. Well, she made another kind of a round of headlines at the Munich Security Conference, going back and forth with Czech Deputy Prime Minister Peter McIntire after he said President Trump was merely a reaction to policies that went, quote unquote, too far.
We saw the cancel culture. We saw the woke revolution. I don't agree with the gender revolution, the climate alarmism.
Which gender? Women having their rights?
No, let Peter go on.
I think there are two genders, so. But some of us think that there is more than two gender. I think there is male and female, and the rest probably is a social construct. So this is something that went too far.
But does that justify selling out the people of Ukraine who are on the front lines dying to save their freedom and their two genders? If that's what you're worried about?
Can I please finish my points? I'm sorry that it makes you nervous. I'm really sorry for that.
There is Czech Deputy Prime Minister Peter McIntire going back and forth with Hillary Clinton. So he said the gender revolution, that was like a dog whistle to Hillary Clinton. What about the women? What about that gender? What about one of those genders? Women? I believe there are. There's male and female. Oh crap. He wasn't selling me out. He wasn't trying to make a misogynistic statement. Let's talk about Ukraine. The internal monologue of Hillary Clinton still going strong, apparently. But there you have it. The Department of War over the weekend transported a next-generation nuclear reactor aboard a C-17 from California to Utah, advancing President Trump's executive order to modernize America's nuclear energy infrastructure and strengthen U.S. national security. The reactor was flown from March Air Reserve Base in California to Hill Air Force Base in Utah and is expected to be transported to the Utah San Rafael Energy Lab in Orangeville for testing and evaluation. It's the next step in assessing how advanced nuclear systems could support military installations and remote defense operations like in Greenland. Did I say that out loud? The Department of War shared images on X showing the reactor loaded onto that C-17 aircraft. The Department of War said the successful delivery and installation of the reactor will open new possibilities for energy resilience and strategic independence for the nation's defense, highlighting what officials described as an agile, innovative, and commercial-first approach to addressing critical infrastructure challenges. So that's something, at the very least. I'm not sure how much noise these types of reactors, or if this is even a consideration for that matter. But you'd think typical run-of-the-mill generators, they always have to be refueled, more refueling, more infrastructure in place, more logistics in place to get the fuel to conventional energy and electrical generators. Not so much the case with small nuclear reactors. And you can see the pictures. They just fit inside a container like what you'd see on a tractor trailer on the highway or a shipping container on an ocean liner. That does indeed represent potential massive shift in how we get energy to the front lines, at least for our military, and down the line, modular nuclear reactors in your own neighborhood. That would be something. Back to the Munich Security Conference. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she made waves for her commentary about Marco Rubio and how she was miffed that he claimed the origins of the cowboy were from Spain. Spoiler alert, they were. She was not done yet. She had not begun to dumb. Listen to this.
You know, we look at what happened in Venezuela, for example. It is not a it is not a remark on who Maduro was as a leader. He canceled elections. He was an anti-democratic leader. That doesn't mean that we can kidnap a head of state and engage in acts of war just because the nation is below the equator.
Maduro, Venezuela, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. One of your last names is Cortez. You didn't know that the cowboy originated originally from Spain to Mexico, then Mexico to the rest of North America. Your last name is Cortez, and you do not know that Venezuela is north of the equator. See, on the flip side of the threat that I laid out yesterday about Hillary Clinton and this whole plan that Democrats have going, at least some of them, of moderating, just lying to the American people for one last time, to put them into power one last time so they can finish their great replacement off one last time. The threat to the Democrats is actually people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, because people like her aren't going to moderate at all. No, that's seen as weakness. Not going to moderate at all. There's no such thing as pragmatism. There's only will to power. Also, she's dumb. And if she becomes anything close, her and Jasmine Crockett, throw in whoever else you want to talk about, if they become the face of that party heading into the midterms, that could be disastrous. When we come back, another person who wants to get his hat thrown in the ring in the political realm, probably on the Democrat side of the aisle. He had a big interview recently. Also, a plan in the Netherlands that's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard as well. That's coming up next. Just want to throw in a quick programming note for you. For the rest of this month after this week, really after this Wednesday's episode, there will be no AM update. No AM updates basically the rest of the month. I think I will be back on March 4th. Maybe March 3rd, but March 4th. The reason is traveling internationally for work. I'm really excited about that opportunity. I've talked about it in passing here on the AM update. Also going to be away from my family for a week, and this is still a side project, the AM update. So I want to give some extra time with my family before I take off and jet set on the other side of the planet. So coming up on Wednesday is the final episode of the month for the AM update. Plan to be back again early March 4th for sure, but maybe March 3rd. So I just want to throw that in there. Going to throw this in there both today and tomorrow as well. So if you're wondering where the episodes are, well, they're nowhere to be found because your host is on the other side of the planet.
How would you handle race if you got into the contest?
I would be who I am.
That is Stephen A. Smith. Big interview with CBS News' Robert Costa.
Would you worry about racism if you ran for president?
No. I know it exists. I know that you can't escape it, but I do not believe it is as prevalent as some on the left would like us to believe. I do believe a vast majority of Americans judge you on the content of your individual character rather than the color of your skin. I think a lot of people in America, especially in this day and age, now more so than ever before, it's not about race. It's about the fact that they don't give a damn about it because they got their own problems. That's entirely different than believing they are superior to you and they want to hold you back from ascending. That's not what's going on to the degree that it was decades ago.
There's Stephen A. Smith, Robert Costa, the woke white reporter from CBS News, just trying to tee up Stephen A. Smith, a black man, to go off on racism. And credit to Stephen A. Smith, he wants none of it. Could he run for president? I think it's pretty clear he wants to. Lawmakers in the Netherlands, for some international news, have taken a major step towards reshaping how digital assets are taxed. The country's House of Representatives voted Thursday of last week to advance legislation introducing a 36% capital gains tax on savings and most liquid investments, including cryptocurrencies. Dutch lawmakers advanced a 36% tax on savings, equities, and crypto, including unrealized gains. Critics, of course, warn that this is stupid. The bill still requires Senate approval before a planned 2028 implementation. The proposal cleared the chamber comfortably, receiving 93 votes, well above the 75 required to move forward, according to the official tally. So, what does a tax on unrealized gains look like? I saw one of these green texts, if you know, you know. One of these green texts laying out in a creative way how this would actually work. Year number one. You put $1,000 into stocks. The stock price goes to $2,000. The government said you made $1,000 because you purchased $1,000. The stock price went to $2,000. You made $1,000. You have to pay them $360 in cash, thanks to unrealized gains. Even though you didn't cash out those equities, you still have to pay that tax, according to this plan from the Netherlands House of Representatives. So in order to pay that tax, guess what you're probably going to have to do? You're going to have to sell the shares that you purchased last year in order to cover the price of the tax of unrealized gains. Now, your scenario is not unique. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people are forced to sell their shares in order to pay the tax on the unrealized gains. Mass panic selling ensues. The stock price crashes from $2,000 to $800. And now you have $440 left after paying the tax. Year number two comes around. The stock price recovers from $1,000 to $2,000 to $800 back to $1,200. The government says, remember, it was at $800 after the crash. You made $400. You have to pay $144 on a tax on your unrealized gains. So you have to sell more equities in order to pay that tax bill. The price then, again, this whole scenario, again, panic selling ensues. The stock price drops again from $1,200 to $900. You have $756 left after paying taxes. Year number three. The stock price recovers a little bit, marginally, modestly, to $1,000. The government then says you made $100. Now you have to pay $36 in taxes. By this time, all of the money has fled the Netherlands. That's a post, originally a green text I've seen for a while. Also posted by @xfreeze on X. That's how dumb that is. How dumb that is. Taxing unrealized gains. Yet ideas like this are making their ways, percolating their way through the West. The House of Representatives in the Netherlands passed a measure to tax unrealized gains comfortably. 36% tax on unrealized gains. That's madness. Absolute madness. Let's go back stateside again. Senator John Fetterman the Democrat in name only, according to probably most of his party, gave an interview to CNN where he lays out what Democrats actually need to focus on.
Never going to change my party, but clearly we've lost the argument, and right now I think it's entirely appropriate to really be honest and just figure out why exactly have we effectively lost 2 out of the last 3 cycles, and a lot of the things we've really kind of really lost our connection with American voters in ways. And I think we can't just be, well, Trump is always wrong, or that we're going to set the country on fire or whatever. That's just not true either, of course. But, when I represent a state like Pennsylvania, that keeps you honest. And you always can't forget that a lot of Americans happen to disagree with you. That does not mean that they are fascists or now they want to shred the Constitution.
But when you hear some Democrats saying Trump is acting like an autocrat.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. If you actually compare him to an actual autocrat, that is not just that. Now, last night, for example, people were complaining. They were protesting about, that's the Hitler thing. You just don't ever compare anyone to Hitler and those kinds of extreme things. And now look what happened to Charlie Kirk. I mean, the man was shot. Now we have to turn the temperature down. It's like we can't compare people to these kinds of figures in history. And this is not an autocrat. This is a product of a democratic election.
So you don't think that Trump is at all shattering any of the norms of democracy in any way?
I'm saying he's definitely different, but that's what America voted for. Again, I don't agree with many of these things, but that does not make him an autocrat.
Senator Fetterman went on to admonish Democrats to not force a government shutdown. We're now in another partial government shutdown, by the way. He admonished Democrats to accept Trump's help in cracking down on crime. He admonished Democrats to stand with Israel against Islamism. And he also said that Zohran Mamdani, New York City's new mayor, does not reflect the broader Democrat Party. Is that good advice for Democrats? Yes. But finally, air analysis, slightly acidic, mostly necessary. Democrats, I believe, by and large, cannot follow that advice. I think you will have limited examples like Abigail Spanberger in Virginia. What we saw from Hillary Clinton over the weekend, all of a sudden, we're moderating on immigration. In fact, migration, as Hillary Clinton put it, has been a disaster. Not her words, but she said it's been destabilizing, and it's a legitimate issue. I think you'll have pockets of Democrats here and there that are truly still, they at least crave power enough that they're going to be smart about their pursuit of it. But I think the soul of that party is what we hear from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez frequently. What we hear from Zohran Mamdani frequently. What we hear from Jasmine, it's just raw pursuit, will to power, I should say. I think the real danger for the Democrats is allowing the aforementioned motley crew, to run and shape the face of their party. Gavin Newsom tried the pragmatic approach. He's probably the most interesting Democrat national figure right now to watch. He tried the pragmatic approach. Remember, I think one of the first episodes of the podcast that he launched last year featured Charlie Kirk, the aforementioned Charlie Kirk you just hear John Fetterman talking about there. And the issue of so-called transgenderism, dudes who feel pretty competing in sports against your daughters, was broached, and Gavin Newsom agreed. Yeah, this is a bridge too far. He said some other things. Oh, you don't have to be cruel about it, but this is a bridge too far. And boy, howdy, that nearly wrecked the entire party last year. People trying to get him back on the reservation. So who knows what kind of tack he'll take moving forward. But I think the real tension on the left is whether or not they feel comfortable being their real selves. Hey, it's me. It's me at the forces of darkness. Come get some. Or whether they take the more pragmatic approach. Hey, it's me. A sheep, I promise. A sheep. All we're going to focus on is affordability, cost of living in those and those kitchen table issues like Abigail Spanberger ran on. Now, this says nothing about the makeup of the American electorate. Jay Jones, the Attorney General of Virginia, after President Trump survived 2 assassination attempts, after Charlie Kirk did not survive his assassination attempt, after it was revealed that Jay Jones fantasizes about murdering his political opponents, the soft-headed people of Virginia still voted him into office. We're at a dangerous, dangerous time. Pray for the country. That's going to do it for today. Back at it again one more time before a long layoff tomorrow. I'm Aaron McIntire, and this is the AM Update.